You hear it all the time, right? AI is going to make corporations more efficient, more sustainable, more transparent. But as we start handing over more and more of our world to algorithms, we have to ask a pretty basic question. Do we actually trust them? Well, this explainer is going to unpack the answer, and trust me, it's not what you think. Look, we're all pretty comfortable letting AI help with our emails or pick our next song. But what about as a corporate decision maker, a CEO? This is the real tension we're going to unpack today. We'll see how our trust in AI totally changes depending on the job we're asking it to do. So, to really get a grip on this trust gap, we need to look at it through the lens of something called ESG. Just think of it like a report card for big companies. It grades them not just on how much money they make, but on their impact on the planet, on society, and on how they're actually run. And hey, this isn't just based on a few opinions or some gut feelings. Our guide here is a massive study. Researchers dug through over 33,000 news articles spanning 25 years just to map out how public opinion on AI has shifted. This is all about what the data tells us about our collective hopes and, yeah, our fears. All right, first up, let's tackle the G and ESG, governance. And this is where the story actually starts on a really positive note. It seems the public doesn't see AI as some kind of threat here, but more like a powerful, impartial watchdog. Just take a look at the governance chart in that bottom row. See that line? Notice how it's just a steady, consistent climb upwards. When it comes to keeping an eye on corporations, public sentiment has gotten more and more positive over time. It seems we kind of trust AI to keep companies honest. So why all the confidence? Well, it looks like we see AI as this incredible tool that can just power through mountains of data to spot fraud, automate all those tedious compliance checks, and bring a level of transparency that humans on our own might just miss. We see it as logical, orderly, and a real weapon against corruption. But hold on, because this is where all that good news hits a major snag. Let's switch gears to the E for environment. In this part of the story, AI is a total paradox. It's a tale of a green promise that's basically turning into a red alert. It's like this battle between two different versions of AI. On one side, you've got green AI, the dream that algorithms can help us fix climate change by making our energy grids smarter or building better climate models. But on the other side, you've got red AI, the harsh reality that these super powerful models are incredibly thirsty for energy and water, creating a massive environmental footprint of their very own. And you can see this play out right here in the data. Look at the environmental chart. For years, things were looking pretty optimistic, but then sentiment just takes a nosedive right around 2022. So what happened? Well, the explosion of generative AI, things like ChatGPT, suddenly made the huge energy costs of AI a front-page story. And to really put that into perspective, get this. This one staggering fact from the research really says it all. The whole promise of green AI is now being seriously challenged by the very real, very tangible environmental cost of the technology itself. It looks like the free pass for digital innovation is over. And that brings us to our final and maybe most complicated piece of the puzzle, the S for social. This is where AI interacts directly with us, with people, in hiring, in our communities, in our everyday lives. And this, my friends, is where we find a deep, deep crisis of trust. Now, to really get this, there is a key idea you need to know: corporate digital responsibility, or CDR. It's actually pretty simple. It's all about a company's duty to use tech ethically. It's not just about what tech can do, but what it should do when it comes to being fair, protecting our privacy, and just looking out for people. So if you look at the social chart, the trend looks a bit stuck, right? It's just kind of hovering around neutral. And that reflects this mix of hope for AI to do cool things in, say, healthcare, but also some real anxiety. But this chart is actually hiding the real story. Because, and this is a huge but, when the researchers dug deeper and isolated the conversation specifically about AI ethics, wow, the picture changes and it gets dark fast. The sentiment here is deeply negative. What this tells us is that the kind of neutral social trend is really a tug of war between optimism in some spots and these deep-seated fears about the core fairness of these systems. And these are the specific fears that are dragging everything down. Is an algorithm going to be biased when it comes to hiring? Is automation going to take my job? Is my data actually safe? These are the huge, unanswered questions that are creating this massive social deficit for AI. So what on earth does all of this mean? Well, when you put all three of these pieces together, governance, environment, and social, you start to uncover what the researchers call a really powerful paradox. The legitimacy paradox. This right here is the key takeaway from our entire explainer, and it reveals a massive split in how we see AI. And here it is, broken down nice and simple. On the one hand, we trust AI to watch over the big corporations, to handle compliance, to sniff out fraud. But on the other hand, we deeply distrust it when it comes to interacting with us, with people, to be fair, to protect our privacy, and to make ethical calls that affect our lives. So what's the bottom line here? We've got three totally distinct stories playing out. We have the governance shield, where we're actually welcoming AI as an ally. We have the environmental reversal, where all that early optimism has kind of soured into real concern. And finally, the social deficit, where our ethical fears have put up a huge wall of distrust. And all this leaves us with one final, really provocative thought to chew on. The technology itself, it might be ready to take on all these bigger roles in our world. But this data strongly suggests that for a lot of those roles, we as a society haven't given it our permission yet. The question isn't just about what AI can do anymore, it's about what we will allow it to do.